back to the Dan Corder Show. South Africa is a movie.
Welcome to the Watch Party!
You see, on Mondays, they come correct. I appreciate that. Okay, so if you are truly blessed and truly free, you don't go on Twitter anymore. Well, the dark place formerly known as Twitter before Elon Musk ruined it. His company, XAI, has created a chatbot like ChatGPT, and it's called Grok. And if you are on Twitter and you want Grok to answer one of your questions, you just make a post and you tag @Grok, and Grok will respond with another post. It's got the same kind of system as ChatGPT does. It's trawled a lot of information to give you the answer that it thinks you want. And last week, on all kinds of posts, Grok started to responding to people's questions by talking about South Africa and claiming that there is a white genocide here and farm murders here, even though the questions were not about that. And it should not be possible for a chatbot AI system like that, a large language model, to be able to respond to your questions with non-related answers. So something weird must have happened. And by the end of the week, all those posts have been deleted, and the XAI company posted that somebody without authorization had gone into Grok at 3 a.m. and made some changes. Who could that possibly have been? Who could have the power to do that without authorization? It's like going, who ate the pigeon? Was it someone in the zoo, or was it the lion in the enclosure where the pigeon was found dead? It's pretty obvious who it was. But I'm thrilled to welcome a real expert. He's the director at Media Monitoring Africa to speak about this. Please give a warm welcome for the first time to the Dan Corder Show to William Bird. Anything you want to add to that, like, broad-based, I was going to say SparkNote summary, but ChatGPT summary of the last week's madness?
Well, it's one of several incidents where it's given inaccurate information. It did that about Holocaust denial as well, just recently, disputing the figure. So, Grok is quite a curious name, isn't it? I was just thinking about it as you're doing the interview. It's halfway between gross and okay. And that's probably similar to Elon Musk, although he's less than okay, he's more just gross and despicable, because if you look at what's happened, there was a pattern of him actively spreading false information about South Africa. He posted an anonymous tweet about someone. He said, a friend of mine is in South Africa, and apparently everything's falling apart. There's no electricity here, there's nothing in Joburg, it's all a complete disaster. Somehow we managed to put together TV programs and do other clever things, but hey, it's a complete disaster. And this is part of a pattern leading up largely to the meeting between our president and President Trump.
The timing is fascinating and obvious, because Grok suddenly started spewing lies within 24 hours of the refugees arriving in America, and a lot of Americans becoming alive to the weirdness of a large group of white, seemingly blessed or at least very well-fed South Africans being called refugees, started digging, and all the major media was suddenly reporting the truth about South Africa, which didn't look good for America or the Trump administration. And now Elon has literally got back on his... I know you're going to clip that, I don't mind. But Elon has gone back on his... trying to spread this. But please talk a little bit to me about how an AI system like Grok, as a large learning or a large language model can automatically spread so much information to so many people in such a short period of time. Because I think that very few people understand how dangerous an automated system is when it can release so much info so quickly without human oversight.
So one of the things people should understand about AI is that it's largely comprised of three things, right? You need really, really high intensive computing power. That's one of the big downsides to AI and will limit its implementation in many African countries, because you need an enormous amount of energy literally to power the computers that you need to do the millions and millions or billions and billions of calculations to run through all that information. Then you need very large data source, and then you need the algorithms. And usually in these things, it's either bad data. So you put rubbish in, you get rubbish out. You make a cake with Elon Musk flavored potatoes, you'll get a dog poo at the end. That's the kind of thing. So rubbish in, rubbish out. And then if you depending on how you frame those algorithms, those questions, those calculations, the kind of queries that you ask that information, you'll get very different answers out. And what they do increasingly is they give users the kind of answers that they think that you want. So one of the downsides that's emerging around AI is that because you think you ask it a question, people think it's going to give you an answer, especially if it gives you data to back that up. And it's stopping, to a large degree, a lot of secondary critical thinking and questioning of those AI systems. So before, if you run a query on any search bar, you'd say, tell me, how many millions of viewers Dan Quarter has, and it would give you some sites, and you'd look through,
0 million.
Click through.
0 million viewers.
Several millions, I believe. Grok just the other day said it was 70 billion users. So if you look through that, it requires you to think about the link and assess the veracity. Whereas when you get something and you ask it a question and it seemingly gives you a conversational answer and it says, well, here's the thing and here's the evidence and here are the links, is it stopping people from going and asking the secondary, well, hang on, do I trust this? Is this correct? Where is it coming from? So it's preventing people from interrogating information, which means that when you've got a system like a Grok or any of them that gives you an answer, people are more inclined to believe that, especially if it's giving it to them in a format and speaking to them like it's a friend, etc.
Like a mate.
That helps them understand it. So if you ask it now and you say, I'm a scared white person because I'm scared of the white genocide, it'll say, we understand your fear and we sympathize with you.
Yeah, it's validating.
But it's not actually, it isn't the case. It kind of tries to let you down.
Yeah.
And then what that does is it stops you from questioning the data that you're given.
No, that's wild. It's wild. And it's interesting what you say about long answers with lots of data specifics. Is that if there's too much data specifics, most people aren't going to spend the time Googling every single one. In a very similar way to, like, politicians love to bury bad news in 200-page reports because then they just hope that the journalist won't read all 200 pages. And often, if the journalist does, on page 189, they find even worse things than the headline. But it's like we can hide the truth however deeply we bury it. But talk to me a little bit about, because there's no way for us to confirm that it was definitely Elon, but like, how could it be possible that somebody without authorization could go in and meddle with the algorithm of a big tech company such that it would now yield answers that were against its programming? Because that was the crazy thing. Grok literally said, it is against my programming to give answers that are not rooted in evidence. So it basically said, somebody in eNCA, the company, made me present ideas as facts without evidence. How does that even happen with an algorithmic system and a large language model?
Well, I mean, in this instance, it would be very similar to someone saying they changed the entire script of this program. How would you know about that? There's only a very small handful of people that have the power and the ability to do that.
Yeah.
And Grok is something similar. There are millions of people that are trying to hack it. So they haven't said that the system was hacked. They've said someone in their system, which means you're talking about a very small, very limited group of people who have got very high levels of security clearance to be able to fiddle with that, precisely because all of these things have a chain reaction. So when you start to fiddle with a tool like that, it deeply damages its credibility. I mean, the credibility of Grok, hopefully now, is shot to hell in a handbasket, and people shouldn't believe just about anything on there, because the obvious question is, if it's going to lie to me about white genocide, how do I know it's not lying to me about the weather?
Yeah.
Even something as simple and as verifiable as what day of the week is it? How do you know that it's not going to tell you that? Because who knows what they're going to think of next? So what they need to be doing is giving us a lot more openness and transparency around who has that power. We want to see this investigation. Who was it
I want to talk to
that
the person.
made that error and changed it, and that made the error to say, Holocaust, not that many people died. The figure's kind of disputed, because these are things that fundamentally alter what people think they know. And again, as you point out, a lot of this is about diversion and distraction. It's diverting and distracting us from other things that are either happening in the States. By and large, we're not their audience, much as we like to think we are. They're interested in the States. So they are focusing attention on South Africa, and you have to say, well, why are they doing that? Where is there an actual genocide going on?
Sure.
Where are there people that are needing to actually come to our country but can't because the president said that they can't? But instead, we're going to focus our attention on this group of poor people who are coming here now, and we're going to speak nicely to them and talk about the importance of immigrants.
Yeah, yeah. And William, the last thing I want to ask you, because you obviously work in this space through Media Monitoring Africa, is the thing that kept me up at night just this last weekend was they did this badly. We noticed. Whoever did it screwed up, and that's how we could tell that we were being misled. But given the extraordinary power of AI models to create enormous sums, to basically swamp the internet, flood the internet with information, whether it's truthful or not, what if soon an AI company does it well and we don't notice a grand deception or pushing of propaganda? And that's what really terrifies me, because an algorithm or a multinational tech company is hard to hold to the law. It's hard to hold them responsible, as we've seen with Google, even by governments, with militaries. That's what keeps me up at night.
I mean, there's no doubt that people are doing that now anyway, on often smaller, more subtle things. They'll talk about elections and they'll spread lies about them. We saw it happening in South Africa to varying degrees, where they say things that have grains of truth in them so that they become a lot more believable. And that's how disinformation works, right? And often these things are compelling. One of the ways they make us fall for it is they use heightened emotion in order to persuade us that this thing, so that because you're angry or upset about the results you're seeing, you're less likely to question its veracity. So I think that there's no doubt that they're already biasing the algorithms that we get.
I see.
And that they also tune them directly to each person, so that it's going to give you the kind of answer that it thinks you necessarily want. The answer to this is, firstly, avoid X like the plague. Like, you should avoid Elon Musk, right? I mean, people should just say no to him. And then make sure you go to trusted, credible, reliable media. That's why they're there. That's why we have a democracy. Without them, democracy fails. So go to any other source. You know, you were talking to your audience about reading 7 news media a day. That's what everyone should be encouraged to do. Diversity, find different places, and if you get a different answer, try a different AI model, see if it gives you the same answer.
Yeah, just presume anything you see online is probably not true.
Especially on X.
And then go from there. William Bird, thank you so much for your time. Isn't he fantastic? Thank you so much, William. Really appreciate you being here.